So
I thought we could just talk about Cruiser
yeah.
a little bit today.
Okay.
So he is in a better place with the pack.
Yeah.
But there's going to be a lot of highs and lows having Cruiser here with us at the farm that we accept, you know.
Yeah.
Overall, we genuinely believe that he loves his life here, don't we? Like he's really enjoying himself.
I just feel like he believes his life would improve even more if he thinned out the herd a little bit. And that's where he's going wrong.
But this is where I thought we could probably talk a little. We haven't talked a lot about dingoes, but we can probably start talking about some of the issues, the underlying issues. Oh, here we go. So that's Tank and Cruiser. Of what we will be dealing with forevermore.
Yeah.
End goal is peace and harmony. Now,
end goal's peace and harmony, but we're fighting an uphill battle as far as Cruz is concerned.
We're not seeing it as an uphill battle, just for everybody at home.
I'm just trying to describe, like you're trying to fit a square peg into a round hole.
Yeah, exactly. No, that's a good way of describing it. And so, in this instance, the square peg
is Cruiser.
Is Cruiser. Oh, I know, but it's not like he doesn't want to fit into
he wants
the
to get
pack.
in there.
Yeah, he
Yeah.
And
but
so
he just needs to smooth off the edges. Now he's bringing a lot of well, you can call it. I usually just refer to it as like wild instincts, but in reality, it's DNA. He's bringing a lot of his DNA into a domestic environment where it's not natural for him.
Yeah.
You know, this is something that is part of every part of his being is survival. You know, number one is survival, and then number two is, family and blah, 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 blah. So there's a couple of things to look at there.
So let's just talk about genetics first for everyone at home, like as in a dingo versus a domestic dog. Because that's what, for us here at the farm, in other situations, people are just, caring for dingoes.
Should we just go a little further under the tree?
Yeah, but for us here, our situation is dingo and domestic dog.
Yeah.
So let's just talk about how the genetics of those two differs or comes out in behaviour and, like social skills and,
So if you had, this is a pretty crappy tree. If you had, come around this way a bit more. I think you're still in it. If you had a pack of dingoes, right, that were just flying around, then you could let them all sort it out themselves, and you could just step back and go, well, let the natural hierarchy take place. You know, this is what would happen in the wild. This is how it would be. You know, all those kind of things.
But we should also maybe let's just step back a sec. Let's firstly talk about how do the genetics of a domestic dog versus genetics of a dingo. Like, let's just make it really, really simple. And that is, if we're talking about the 5,000 years that a dingo has been here in Australia as a dingo, that's 5,000 years of, wild genetics.
Yeah.
No
successful genetics.
Yeah. No domestication. And
no impurities or dilution of the DNA, or it's all been just, if the machine isn't broken, don't fix it. It just survived.
Yeah, so the genetics makes them inherently untrusting of other canines and humans.
Yeah, you can picture. Let's say there was a litter of pups, and 2 of them were adventurous and curious, and the other 5 weren't. Those 2 will end up dying. They won't survive because they're investigating too many things that here in Australia will kill you. If they're inherently nervous and they have a very strong flight response versus fight response, they're going to survive versus being killed. So that inherent urge and nature to be nervous and be weary and be untrusting is what has made them such successful survivors. And so that's what we're seeing here as something that's very different to a domestic dog. And it's something that, yes, we can build trust and we can build a relationship and a bond, but there will always be that instinctual urge to, I've never seen this before, I'm gonna just shoot away quickly, I'm not sure about this.
So that compared to those thousands of years of genetics in a domestic dog, which we as humans have encouraged genetically trusting DNA.
So
trusting of other dogs,
like
trusting of humans.
Those how many years of human civilization where we're like, this dog is far too aggressive for this kind of thing. Let's not breed it with this one. Let's choose a more placid one or whatever.
Yeah.
Make a better family pet or make a better... But then you've got the other side. They're like, okay, hunting dog. We want these traits. Let's mix these together. So it's all been carefully crafted to produce the desired output and the desired traits. So that's why we've got so many different breeds and all the rest of it. But as far as the dingo's concerned, they've had almost, you could call it, it's not a very big time frame, 5,000 years, but you could call it, natural selection, where this is what has proven to be the formula for survival.
Yeah.
This is who they are now as a species,
So if we then also just compare again, because we're getting to our situation here.
Yeah.
We're kind of giving some background just for those people that don't know a lot about dingoes. A lot of our audience are international.
Yeah.
And so they have an understanding of like wolves and coyotes, but not dingoes.
Yeah, okay.
So we're getting to the point of cruiser in our pack, but the other background that's really I think important to understand for cruiser and our pack is how dingoes are not technically pack animals. And whereas dogs are. So unlike wolves, dingoes have a family unit, if at all, versus now we're not saying that they don't have the capacity like cruiser to be pack orientated. Yeah.
But they usually only hang out as a family.
Yeah. So what does a family look like?
A mate with a litter of pups that
under a certain age.
Yeah, young pups. As soon as they reach adulthood, they usually wander off and try and find their own mates to settle down and have a because you do get some dingoes that do travel in larger numbers, but they're likely all family that have neighbouring territories, and they come together and for
hunting purposes,
and little things like that. But they don't stay as a one unified pack, for their entirety of their lives. They don't rely on the pack for survival. They don't, that kind of stuff is a bit different from where wolves, the stronger the pack of wolves, the more prey they can bring down, the more successful the pack is. That doesn't really apply as much to dingoes here in Australia, mainly because we don't have any really large native prey for them. You know, the biggest prey we've got for them is the kangaroo.
Kangaroo, cats and foxes.
Yeah, it's all smaller prey, so they don't need like the
They have been known to bring down wild goat and stuff like that.
But the strength of a big pack is almost an hindrance when you don't have the ability to make one kill and it feed your whole pack. You know, you have one kill and it might feed a third of them. You got to make multiple, so everyone just branches off and fends for themselves type thing. It's a lot more successful.
So, with that in mind, so what we're saying is that we understand that he has the capacity to be social and live in a pack environment. Yeah. We do really feel that way. Yeah. However, we know that genetically dingoes
he's wired a little bit different.
Are different to wolves and dogs. Mm-hmm. So in terms of like your role or what we're doing here, what's happening now, what will continue to happen for Cruiser is you really are going to have to continue to help him accept this pack as his family.
The perfect scenario for Cruiser is that he accepts every single one of these dogs as a brother or sister. And we all know that, you know, sometimes you're not happy with your brother and sister, but they're blood, you got to deal with it. So, you know, I think that's what he's dealing with at the moment. He's going through that point in time where he wants to thin out the herd and be like, we got no time for you, we got no time for you.
You know. He's happy with Chopper being his brother. You know, Miss Red being his sister. Roscoe being the daddy.
He wants to hand select them and wander off into the bush by themselves.
Yeah.
So, Abra, stay out of that. Good girl.
So, and also just a reminder that Cruiser is a wild-born dingo. He's not a captive-born dingo. Now, captive versus wild is very, very different.
Yeah. So you can get captive bred, and also, you know, they can be a lot more friendly. They can
and trusting
and you know, they can seem a lot more like a domestic dog, where they have a lot of similar you know, behaviors, but that's the beginnings of, you know, a new teaching or something they've learned through human influence that their species has never experienced before, you know.
So the key with a dingo is to socialize them from puppyhood.
It would be exactly the same as getting a lion and then raising it in a human environment. That has to be done from the most, you know, impressionable age that's possible, because as soon as they have any of that, you know, wild teaching or memory, that's who they are. Yeah, the key period as far as domestic dogs are concerned is, let's say that the breeder or the mother and pup, they don't do anything, and you get your puppy at 8 weeks old. That's from 8 to 16 weeks is where you should be exposing that dog to as many different parts of your life as possible. So they just take that on as, okay, this is what we do in life.
Yeah.
You know, that's that real impressionable age where they haven't made judgment on anything. They'll take everything with a grain of salt.
So they feel neutral about those.
Yeah, and it's all up to us as owners to show them that there's nothing to be fearful of this, or there is something to be fearful of this, stay away from it. You know? So
in Cruiser's case, that crucial 16 weeks, as well, this is what we were told, is that he was, you know, tied up with hunting dogs in a hunting family.
We don't even know what age he was taken from the wild either. Like,
we don't know, but they had him for the first 4 or 5 months, supposedly. Yeah. So he has missed out on that opportunity.
Like if we could have got him at that young impressionable age, he would grow up looking and behaving and assimilating like a domestic dog.
Yes.
You could teach him that this is the way life is. But because he hasn't had that, now he's an adult dog. An adult dingo. You really are just trying to help him assimilate the best he can.
That's right.
Because that genetic makeup has completely taken hold of, I'm a wild animal, and it's a lot harder to deal with now. It's almost like like me. Well, I don't know. I was going to say me pre-military service versus post-military service. Come back with PTSD and whatnot. It's like, just go back to being normal. Yeah, doesn't really work like that.
Yeah. Very true.
Look at these two.
But it really sucks for dingoes like Cruiser. Now Cruiser, let's just be honest here. He is so lucky. He has ended up in not in the beginning. I was going to say the same thing. But firstly, not lucky because he was stolen from his mama.
No,
in the wild. He should have stayed there. We don't believe that dingoes should be pets.
No, I don't
Number one.
I don't believe anything should be taken from the wild and domesticated or kept. But he's lucky for a few fronts. Firstly, he was rescued from the initial people that took him and tied him up with the hunting dogs. He was rescued and given a loving home. Secondly, he is in New South Wales, where he's not caught up in the different laws for different states that are governing what you can and can't do with, dingoes around Australia. New South Wales is one of the states where you can look after them as pets. It's illegal in a lot of other states.
Yeah, so that's not... in Cruiser's case, I guess...
So, if he was taken from the wild in Queensland and then he was discovered, it's illegal to put him back out in the wild and it's illegal to keep him, so they get destroyed.
Yeah.
I'm saying he's lucky he's in New South Wales.
Yeah. So in other states, I'm just trying to explain it to everybody. In other states, there are sanctuaries and foundations and zoos.
Yeah.
But they can't take all the dingoes.
Correct.
So just for everyone at home, since we got Cruiser, we've been inundated with requests to take on dingoes. Now, we are struggling with just one in our dog pack. We can't really take on more dingoes. We're not set up for it at this point, Now, but
we haven't even got over the hurdles that we're facing with this one yet.
Yeah.
With cruisers.
And we live in a home. We don't have when I say a facility, I mean it more as in another location that is set up, with staff and
that you can safely
and that is a sanctuary for, dingoes or whatever. No. This is our house and our home, and we don't even have proper setup, for
dealing with this kind of situation
with our children and all of that. We're not even at that point yet, so we're not in a position to take in all these dingoes. But the point that Luke is making is that many of the people that are contacting us are from Queensland because these dingoes, the sanctuaries and zoos are saying no because they have no room. And so these dingoes are being hidden, and they're trying to get them out of Queensland because they are put to sleep.
Yeah.
So whilst Queensland has laws to protect dingoes, as in, in the wild, there is no protection outside
there's no protection once the animal has been deemed to be domesticated. So once it's lived with humans, it's illegal to put them back out into the wild, because that is something that has altered the influence on how that dingo will behave, and likely look to other humans for a source of food and get itself in trouble and blah 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 blah.
So
I'm not justifying the laws, but I'm just saying this is their thought process.
And this
on
is
it.
how messy it is. Like we talked about it earlier, not getting into it. So I'm just hoping that maybe all of that gives a bit more.
Have we finished? I thought we were just
Yeah,
getting started.
no, get into it. Go for it. Sorry. So Cruz is in a unique situation.
Yeah.
He's ended up here at the farm, and you're trying to teach him that this pack is his family.
Yeah, so he's got an instinctual driver within himself, with the way that he behaves, the way that he interacts, the way that he understands a family unit to be, and his pack, and this is definitely not it. Abra. It's definitely, that I talk about that wild instinct, and that is that the strong survive and the weak get evicted or pushed out, and that's what he has started doing here, and that's why the relationship started to break down. So for him to ignore that instinct to push out the weak and stay with a stronger pack, there's less mouths to share the food with and all the rest of it. These are all things that have no they don't have any validity here. Like they're useless. We're always going to have 2 meals a day and all the rest of it. They don't need to hunt for their food. So that kind of instinctual driver, we need to help him develop skills to not hold them so important within himself. There's a whole heap of things going on with all that, and the other one that is unnatural for him is the sheer size of our pack here. It's not a natural environment for dingo. So yes, they can be social and they can be friends and all the rest of it, but they, like we said before, they don't rely on the pack for survival. They can easily survive on their own, but they do need to mate and reproduce and raise young, and then once those young are at a certain age, then they move on to find their own pack. So as far as dealing with this kind of complex social environment, it's not very easy for him to comprehend and assimilate, because there's so many relationships here that he would just not have to deal with in the wild.
It's a lot more complex.
So much more complex, and so much more in his mind unnecessary.
Yeah.
Why do I have to waste any time dealing with you or resolving any issues I have with you?
Yeah.
That's something that he's just like, I don't have to do this.
Yeah.
So they're all new things that we're dealing with, trying to get him to see value in the relationship with dogs that he doesn't see any value in. That's a huge one that domestic dogs don't have that hurdle to deal with,
So I thought one of the interesting observations that we have of Cruiser that I thought that we could share with everybody is that he very much wants to be with the pack. We've talked about that several times, to the point where if you leave the farm, or for whatever reason he is separated because you're busy with something, he is trying to get to where the pack is,
Look at
right?
that there on the hill.
I'll have to zoom in, hang on. His mate shop.
Yeah, my brother's far enough away, we can be mates.
However, the interesting part of that story, right, in terms of him wanting to be with the pack, is that if he is, because there was a period of time where he was with the pack 24/7, even during unsupervised times, and then we had to pull back on that because he was breaking down relationships, right? But even when he is with the pack, if you're not present, he then goes and hides away. And he does this all the time. So,
But that's a good thing now.
Yeah,
You know, that's
for us,
serving him.
in terms of managing the relationships, it works well for us, and obviously works well for him too. But it's an interesting one where he almost didn't trust his role in the pack or as a valued member enough without you present.
Yeah, I think there's an element of that, but I also think that it could be that he knows he's a bit of a fish out of water now.
Yeah.
He understands it's not as easy as he thought, and I've built my relationship with him enough that he values my relationship in trusting that I can help guide him through it. So whenever I'm around, I get a sense that he knows I can control the dogs, so they won't lash out towards him when I'm around. He also, there's an element of, I don't know what I'm doing, but with you around, I'm a bit more confident, I can start to test the waters again.
Yeah.
So it's a good thing as far as, there's a lot more trust in me from him. But as far as the management and limiting, that saying of, if you give him too much rope, he's going to hang himself. That same, you put that towards what he's doing here, and he's able to keep the interactions positive and not overstep the mark and turn it negative and tip the scales against him again. So it's a hesitancy that I like, that I'm seeing, because until he's completely comfortable and up to speed with how it all works and what he can and can't do, I want him to remove himself when he's unsure.
Yeah. So whilst we say that he does love the pack life,
he loves the social element.
He does, but he recognises his limitations in the pack.
He recognises his limitations in the pack, but then he also recognises, I think, he went into it guns blazing. Just went in and like, woohoo, yeah, let's go. Stuff you, but yeah, let's go. Well, I'll stuff you too. Just burning bridges the whole way along.
Yeah.
And now I feel like he values the pack a little bit more. He has a bit more of a healthy respect for the pack. And what he didn't count on was that he made an enemy with one dog, and the rest of the pack said, hey, this is my pack member, and they all turned on him. And that's what he wasn't ready for. He was ready to keep his alliance of the big dogs, we're all friends. He wasn't expecting all the pack to turn around and chase him off. That really shook him. So now that's what I feel is opening his eyes a little bit to, this isn't as easy as I thought. This isn't a natural balance of things. This isn't the way my chemical and DNA is made up. Like, this is new. And so now he's walking on eggshells, treading lightly, starting to figure out what's right, what's wrong.
Rebuild relationships.
Start from the beginning and suss it all out, which is a lot healthier for him. It's what he needed to do. If he didn't do it himself, we would have to manage it a little bit better in the fact of, not better, but a little bit more strictly with his time socializing, but because he's doing it himself, he's doing really well. He was having a good zooming play around the shadow, but
I missed it. I tried to zoom in fast, but they came tearing down the hill.
yeah. This is where he's finding a new comfort zone, and that's with any of the dogs who are willing to branch off and step away from the bulk of the pack and engage in some kind of play. Because if he does that right in the middle here, there's still some, fresh wounds that haven't healed completely that he's going to find himself in a little bit of hot water, which is what happened before with, he was playing with Maggie, I think, and found himself next to Tank, and then Tank was like, don't play like that with my Maggie, and that tension builds. So this is where he's like, yeah, if I'm 30 meters away, a dog wants to come over, we can play, but it gives him space to be himself but still engage and interact. Now all the dogs are here resting, and he's up on that truck up there. Yeah, so in summary, it's now you can see what I'm saying when I mention it's an uphill battle. It's an uphill battle, meaning
we're working
there's a lot of issues to overcome
against genetics, in a sense.
There's a lot of issues to overcome when you're talking about, getting a wild-born dingo as an adult come into this environment and try to teach it a completely new slate. Like this is a new world. This is so foreign to him, it's not funny. And
we'd be in
we're
a
asking a
completely
lot from him.
We'd be in a completely different situation if he was born in captivity, and
or we got him from a really young pup.
Yeah, or as a tiny little pup, he was domesticated and socialized properly.
Properly, yeah.
They're those three things. So, like how he came to be, and domestication and socialization. They're the three key things really for a dingo to, coexist successfully in this kind of situation, with a family with children, 20 odd domestic dogs, a couple of cats, some livestock.
Yeah.
Where, I mean, if you think about it like that, the poor guy,
he's got a big hurdle to overcome, doesn't he?
Like dingoes in Australia, for everyone who doesn't know much about dingoes.
We have dingoes that live in the valley, wild dingoes, and there are some domestic bloodlines that have turned wild dog that run around the area as well, but they take down livestock in the valleys all the time.
So their prey, a wild dingo is cats, foxes, sheep, goats,
young cows, foals, anything like that. When we first moved in here, the fences weren't in, and I found tracks through the bush, and they weren't from a heavy animal. And then the more I looked into it, it was obviously a wild dog pack that would walk through the bushland up here, up over the hill, to survey what was grazing down in the paddocks down here. And it was some very distinct tracks that came in from my property on this side, would go up over the hill, and then it would look at this yard, that yard, and then go over the back to the neighbouring yard up there, and it's just a trail that they would walk looking for opportunities to take down livestock. And the owner before me used to run sheep here, and he said he would lose 10 a year to wild dogs, which would be dingoes and wild dogs that have been mixed together. So there's definitely, there are a lot of dingoes and wild dogs running around Australia and these rural parts. And when you think about what he's built for, what 5,000 years of natural selection and successful survival in this country has given him, and then you're like, okay, forget about all that and now start doing this. That's just like, what? Hold on a second. This goes against everything that is his, heart and soul and blood and bone. So it's a huge thing to ask from him, but this is the situation he's found himself in, and this is where we're at. So we're just working the best we can with all that in mind, and hoping for a very happy and peaceful resolution, in the shortest time possible.
Because he's only a young animal.
He's only a young.
He has a lot of his life left to live.
Mate.
So.
And in saying that, this is really just a snapshot to give you guys an insight into what we're dealing with as far as cruisers specifically is concerned. And I do need to say that he's only been here for a short time in the scheme of things, but he's doing really well.
Yeah.
Like, he is becoming very, very capable of adapting and assimilating into this environment. There is obviously still many things he needs to learn, but it's all in his time. It's all in whenever we cross that bridge. At this stage, we're just trying to maintain relationships, teach him how to not burn any bridges, all those kind of things, which he's very smart, and I feel like he's picking it up quite quickly.
Yeah.
So it's looking like everything will be okay eventually. It's just how long is it going to take? So with that in perspective, hopefully everyone sort of has a bit more of an understanding of it's not just as simple as rehabilitating the Chances and the Roscoes and the Freddos of the world. Dealing with something a little bit different.
Yeah. I think maybe some people dismissed the case of Cruiser in terms of why he would come here, and like for us personally as Australians and animal lovers, and people who appreciate the fact that a dingo should be protected. It was an important personal decision for us, wasn't it, to help Cruiser out?
It was.
We can't help them all, but that's just the same with the dogs. We are just two people.
Yeah, so it's one of those things. It was. It's a very similar thing to me wanting to sign up to the military and do my part for my country. It's the same sort of thing with Cruiser. It's like, well, we are in a position where we can help this dingo, and being Australian and being, like you say, the animal lovers that we are, let's do the best we can for this animal.
It doesn't.
We love this country and all the animals in it, and
and it doesn't take anything away from the fact that we believe that dingoes should be kept in the wild.
Oh no. Honestly, I think that all animals, even like the animals that I catch here for whatever reason, one of my biggest things is to try to help my kids understand that you don't want to impact the native wildlife in preference at all, but naturally you're going to cross paths, and so you want to have a minimal impact on them. If anything, you know, you want to make it a slightly positive one where you might give them medical attention or something like that, then they go back to the wild. But, you know, you don't want to catch and keep or, you know, interfere with it. You just want to appreciate it, love it, respect it, and let it be. So now that we find ourselves, or the cruiser finds himself in this situation, you know, laws are preventing him from ever being a wild dingo ever again. But, you know, hopefully we can still give him a slice of heaven here at the farm.
And his most favourite thing is at the end of the day.
Yeah, coming into the house.
He just loves it, doesn't he?
He does. Yeah, he really does. Don't you, boy? Oof. And I love these ears. His ears are a lot thicker than usual. They're like Tilly's ears.
They
But
are like
even
Tilly.
thicker again.
Yeah.
Like no matter what you do to them, they'll always be up. They never flop. You know? Hey, little girl. Oof. Yeah. But he's definitely got one of the other things that I've noticed is he is a flight animal. Like he will try to choose flight every single time, but if he's cornered, he puts out this he puts out an energy of, you know, if I'm going down, I'm taking someone with me. You know, like he puts out, I'm going to fight to the death. Domestic dogs, I don't see that very often in. With a domestic dog, they can still show you teeth that I'm going to fight it out, but it's never that seriousness of I'm going to fight it out to the death.
Yes,
you know, it's either a bluff or it's a okay, well we're in it, let's do it. But there's not that heart in it, like I'm going to give it everything. You know.
Yep. He
gives a look of I'm cornered, there's no escape, let's go, you know, and he's just like, I'm like, whoa, settle down, buddy, you know.
Well, that's why there are dogs like Abra that are bred. No, I didn't mean to bring her in as a, you know, goodness, like, but I meant it as in breed specific, that generally domestic dogs, because in the protection world, they talk about nerves and how, you know, reactive dogs or, you know, fear aggressive dogs or aggressive dogs, just because they show those traits, it doesn't mean that they have, you know, like nerves of steel. So they can be defensive or they can, you know, be protective, all of those things. But the trait where they're going to fight until the death is very
survival.
Generally, in a domestic situation, is few and far between.
No, that's purely
people
survival
argue
instinct.
it. People do argue
but
it.
That's purely survival instinct. Like, okay, well, this is it. My only way out is to fight my way out, and that's the energy that he brings. You know, it's something that you know, I've figured out how to handle him in those situations, and it's different to how you would handle a domestic dog doing that. You know, for him, I show weakness, which I never do to domestic dogs. You know, you have to be strong, you have to be, but for him, it disarms him.
Yes.
Me showing weakness to him when I can see that in him, and now I know him, and it's not a show of strength, it's pure survival, you know, instinct of I can't see a way out, my only way out is through you or whatever. You know, it's different to a domestic dog. You know, I don't know how to articulate it accurately other than the fact that the strategies that I'm adopting to help Cruiser are different to the strategies that, you know, a domestic dog would respond to. And that's purely dealing with, like we've been speaking about, his genetic makeup and his DNA. I got a delivery there. Yeah, so cruiser. All of these things that we've been speaking about, you know, they're, as far as him assimilating, you know, the hurdles and things he needs to overcome, but as far as him individually, you know, personally, it's what I love about him. It's the fact that he is different. He is a, you know, a really big. Oh, thanks, Roscoe. Nice of you to join us, mate. You pick yourself up off the couch, did you, buddy? Hey? Pick yourself up off the couch, did you, mate? Yeah, boy. Yeah, boy. Boy. Go on. Go free. We've all been running around, mate. We've been worn out. Here you are. Bringing it in. Anyway, what I was saying was, all these things, they're not negatives. You know, we're pointing them out as their differences, but personally, I love that about him, that he brings that, you know, native, wild, instinctual, you know, Australian history to our pack. You know, it's one of those things where, as much as it's a bit of a you know, issue to help overcome, it's you know what I do love about him, that he represents all of that. You know, he's not a completely domesticated animal that just assimilates naturally. You know, he's a animal that needs that either extra space or extra time or extra attention in certain areas to help him adapt. And you know, when we started talking about taking on a dingo, that was all part of the excitement of doing it. You know, it was going to be challenging. It was going to be, it was going to have its difficulties and you know, setbacks.
As a dog trainer.
But that's what makes it rewarding at the other end, you know, when you get through it all.
Mm.
Hey, mate. Ooh, hey, mate.
He loves Roscoe.
He loves Roscoe. Roscoe is the big, strong dog that he's like, yeah, let's be friends. I don't want to fight you ever.
Yeah. Ever.
Yeah. But he's got, I must say, he has, initially, the main differences that I'll find and point out very quickly from Cruiser to any of the other domestic dogs is his ability to open his mouth significantly wider and how big his teeth are in relation to his head. They're much bigger than a domestic dog.
He greets you with his mouth open.
Oh, greet you like with the teeth hanging out, like, hello, what was this? What are you doing, buddy? You know, at first you're like, are you ready to chomp down on those things? What are you doing? Hey? Oh, what's going on, mate? Yeah. But yeah, no, he's a beautiful animal, and looking forward to when we get all these things ironed out, hey mate? Then we'll go back to working on you, Abra. Yeah, you. You little troublemaker. Oh. Oh. Hello. Hello. Okay, I got you. Just relax. to do that with Banjo. Banjo's deceivingly big. Like he still looks like a, you know, medium-sized dog. He's a bit longer and a little bit taller maybe, but you pick him up and he's heavy.
He's
got
very
like
solid.
Huge chest and
Yeah.
massive back leg muscles, big front leg muscles. It's very deceiving.
He is deceiving, yeah.
I remember, I think I tried to lift him up into the bath once and I was like, whoa, I wasn't expecting this. He's solid.
Yeah, I don't know why it is deceiving though. I thought maybe it's because we still see them as those babies.
No, something else going on there. He's just like a big frame, aren't you, mate? Like here, it's wide. He's muscly. Just everything about him is a big doggy, aren't you, mate? Ooh, hello. Like he's, yeah. It is deceiving. Even the thickness of his neck, like it's, well, he's got a bit of a hairy neck, but it's just so. Good boy, mate. Good boy, buddy. Rightio. Oh, look at Miss Red come around the corner. She's like, you guys still Joe, leave the dirt under there, mate. I need to dig it up. I'll clippity flops come running through with the boy.
Bunny boy.
Roar.